Shin Dong-hyuk. Shin's story is truly unique. Shin Dong-hyuk was born in Camp 14, which is one of North Korea's brutal labor camps. In North Korea, entire families can be punished for the actions of just one person, and more than 130,000 men, women, and children are locked up in these harsh camps. Shin's parents were prisoners who were allowed to marry as a reward, which led to his birth. He lived with his mother until he was 12, but they never formed a close bond. His education was very basic, and soon he was forced to work in the camp. At a young age, Shin witnessed the brutality of camp life, children beaten, executed, or lost to fatal accidents. In 1996, he was moved to a new detention facility where the torture became more extreme, leaving him traumatized and confused. Eventually, the guards informed him that his mother and brother had tried to escape and wanted to provide more information. Despite his uncertainty and fear, he was pressured to cooperate. Shin was then kept in an underground cell for 7 long months before being forced to witness the public execution of his mother and brother, a moment that would forever scar him. In 2005, driven by an insatiable hunger and the desire for freedom, Shin and another prisoner made a desperate bid for escape. As they climbed the electrified fence that separated them from the outside world, Shin's leg became caught, leaving a permanent mark on his flesh. Yet, with sheer determination, he broke free, not just from the fence, but from a life where survival often meant betraying friends and family. Shin's story is a testament to the lengths that one will go to escape not just physical captivity, but a life devoid of hope. Park Yeon-mi. Yeon-mi Park's early life in Hyeon, near the Chinese border, seemed relatively stable by North Korean standards. But when the famine of the 1990s struck, her family's fortunes took a drastic turn. Her father was imprisoned for illegal trading to support the family, and Yeon-mi, along with her mother, was left to survive on their own. Under the cover of night, Yeon-mi and her mother sneaked across the frozen Yalu River into China. Every step on the cracking ice was a gamble with their lives, but what awaited them in China was far from the safety that they had hoped for. Captured by human traffickers, 13-year-old Yeon-mi was sold into a forced marriage. Despite this terrible ordeal, she never gave up hope. She and her mother eventually escaped with the help of Chinese missionaries who risked their lives to assist them. Their next challenge was a daring trek across the Gobi Desert into Mongolia. Guided only by a compass and their unwavering will, Yeon-mi and her mother walked through freezing temperatures driven by the distant lights of freedom. They were told to find the Mongolian border guards and ask for asylum. The journey was grueling with freezing temperatures and the constant fear of being caught and sent back to North Korea. Park Yeon-mi faced hunger, cold, and the constant threat of being caught, yet her spirit never broke. When they finally reached Mongolia, they were detained, but their request for asylum was granted, and they were eventually sent to South Korea. In South Korea, Yeon-mi began to rebuild her life, facing new challenges, like adapting to a completely different society and catching up on years of lost education. But her determination to make the most of her new freedom never faltered. Today, she's a human rights activist, sharing her story to inspire others. Chong-song. It was a crisp November day in 2017 at the Korean Demilitarized Zone. That is one of the most heavily guarded borders in the world, where tensions are always high and any sudden movement could set off a major incident. Stationed at the border, decided he couldn't take the oppressive regime any longer. He jumped into a military jeep and sped down the narrow roads of the DMZ, his heart racing and adrenaline pumping. He knew there was no turning back. Suddenly, gunfire erupted as his comrades realized what was happening. Bullets zipped past him, and then disaster struck. The jeep got stuck in a ditch. Without wasting a second, left the jeep and started running. As he sprinted towards freedom, his fellow soldiers opened fire, hitting him multiple times. But despite his injuries, kept moving, driven by the hope of a better life. Was shot 5 times, with bullets hitting his shoulder, knee, and abdomen. He finally collapsed just 50 meters from the military demarcation line, the official border between North and South Korea. South Korean soldiers quickly sprang into action. They crawled under the cover of nearby buildings to reach and dragged him to safety, risking their lives to save someone who, moments earlier, had been their enemy. Was then airlifted to a hospital where surgeons worked tirelessly to save him. During surgery, they found not only bullets but also parasitic worms in his stomach, a shocking sign of the poor living conditions in North Korea. The doctors were shocked by the state of Oh's health. The parasitic worms, some over 10 inches long, highlighted the severe lack of nutrition and sanitation in North Korea. Oh had been a soldier, supposedly one of the better-fed citizens, but his body told a different story. After weeks of intensive care and multiple surgeries, Oh Chong-song regained consciousness. He had survived against all odds. The first thing he did when he woke up? He asked if he was in South Korea and if he was truly free. Today, he enjoys freedom in South Korea. Kim Hyon-hui. Kim Hyon-hui's story begins in 1962, when she was selected for her intelligence and beauty to attend an elite North Korean spy school. There, she underwent tough physical training, intense political indoctrination, and language lessons to prepare her for missions in enemy countries. In 1987, she was given a mission that would forever alter her life. Kim and another agent were ordered to plant a bomb on Korean Air Flight 858. The mission was tragically successful. The bomb exploded midair, killing all 115 passengers and crew. Disguised as Japanese tourists, Kim and her partner placed the bomb in an overhead compartment before leaving the plane during a layover. Then, they flew to Bahrain, where things took an unexpected turn. In Bahrain, Kim and her partner were caught while trying to board a flight to Rome. Attempting to avoid capture, they both tried to commit suicide by biting cyanide capsules hidden in their cigarettes, a standard issue for North Korean spies. Kim's partner succeeded, but her attempt failed. She was taken to the hospital and survived, leading to her capture by South Korean authorities. At first, Kim pretended to be a Japanese tourist and refused to cooperate, but over time, something remarkable happened. The South Korean interrogators gradually broke through her brainwashing. Kim had been taught that South Korea was a poor, oppressive country, but seeing the lively streets of Seoul filled with happy, prosperous people completely shattered her beliefs. Kim's journey wasn't a physical escape. It was a profound psychological transformation, a defection that took place in her mind as much as in her body. Thae Yong-ho. Thae was a high-ranking North Korean diplomat serving as the deputy ambassador in London. It was a job that came with lots of perks and prestige, especially by North Korean standards. On the surface, he seemed loyal to the regime, but deep down, he was troubled by the harsh realities of life in North Korea and its brutal dictatorship. The turning point came in 2016 during a business trip to China, where Thae was with his family. For most North Koreans, traveling abroad is a rare privilege, and diplomats are closely watched. But Thae had a plan that was formed after years of seeing the outside world and realizing how different life was compared to the oppressive reality in North Korea. They fled to the Southern Korean embassy, creating a huge diplomatic incident. Escaping wasn't just a personal decision, it was a family commitment to a new, risky life. One wrong move, one hint of suspicion, and their entire plan could fall apart, leading to terrible consequences. Pretending it was just another routine day, Thae and his family quietly slipped away from their London home and headed to the South Korean embassy. Despite the danger of being caught at any moment, they succeeded thanks to their careful planning and intelligence. The defection created a diplomatic incident, with North Korea humiliated by the loss of such a high-ranking official. Today, Thae and his family live in South Korea, free from the regime they once served. Joseph Kim. In the mid-1990s, as famine ravaged North Korea, Joseph Kim's life was torn apart. His mother and sister fled to China to find work, leaving him behind. He never saw them again. Alone and struggling, Joseph was forced into hard labor, enduring conditions that no child should ever face. At just 14 years old, Joseph was trapped in the dark, damp depths of a mine, fighting for his life each day. His childhood was marked by hunger and loss, with his father dying of starvation before his eyes. By 2006, at the age of 16, Joseph faced a stark choice: stay in unbearable conditions or risk everything to try to escape. Driven by desperation, Joseph crossed the dangerous North Korean border. The border isn't just a line on a map, it's a deadly barrier guarded by soldiers who shoot to kill. But against all odds, Joseph made it to China. Even there, he wasn't safe, as North Korean defectors are often hunted down and sent back. However, Joseph's determination carried him through, and he was eventually granted refugee status in the United States. In America, Joseph found a new start with a loving foster family. Though he now lives far from the horrors of his past, the memories of his childhood, the hunger, the loss, the hardship, are scars that will never fade. Hyeon-seo. In 1997, Lee Hyun-seo made the daring decision to cross the frozen Yalu River on her own. The freezing cold bit into her skin as she carefully navigated the ice, with every step possibly being her last. With the help of a sympathetic border guard, Lee managed to sneak past North Korea's tight security, hoping to fulfill a long-held dream of freedom. However, what was meant to be a brief escape turned into a long, hidden stay with relatives in China. North Korean security forces began searching for her, and the danger of being caught became too great. To survive, Lee adopted a new identity, pretending to be a mentally challenged girl from Heilongjiang. This wasn't just a name change, it was a complete transformation, even securing a passport and driver's license under her new identity. Her ruse was tested one day when she was interrogated by Chinese police, who suspected she was a North Korean defector. They grilled her on her Chinese language skills and her knowledge of the country. But thanks to her father's foresight in teaching her Chinese from a young age, Lee spoke the language fluently enough to convince the authorities and continue her life in hiding. Otto Warmbier. Otto Warmbier's story is a tragic reminder of the dangers that can arise in North Korea. In 2016, during a tour of the country, Otto made a decision that would change his life forever. In a moment of recklessness, Otto snuck into a hotel service room and took a propaganda poster that said, "Let's arm ourselves with patriotism in the name of King Jong-il." Unfortunately, his actions were caught on camera. When he was about to leave the country, he was arrested at the airport. This wasn't a regular arrest. It was the start of a terrifying ordeal. The North Korean authorities didn't just arrest Otto. They kept his fate a secret. His trial was a media spectacle, broadcasted on state-run news. Seeing Otto distressed and begging for mercy was heartbreaking. He admitted that it was the biggest mistake of his life, but that didn't help. Otto was sentenced to 15 years of hard labor. The young American student who had been full of life was thrown into a brutal prison system where he endured unimaginable conditions. But the nightmare didn't end there. After the trial, Otto's health quickly deteriorated. He fell into a coma due to shock and malnutrition, and his condition only got worse. Otto was eventually sent back to the United States, but it was too late. He arrived in a comatose state, and despite doctors' best efforts, he passed away shortly after. No Kum-So. In 1953, just after the Korean War, tensions of the Korean peninsula were at an all-time high. Amidst the charged atmosphere, a daring pilot named No Kum-So made a decision that would go down in history. During a routine training flight, No, flying a Soviet MiG-15, made a split-second decision that changed everything. Instead of following orders, he veered off course and headed straight for the 38th parallel, the heavily fortified line separating North and South Korea. With his MiG-15 roaring through the sky, No Kum-So's heart was racing as he approached the border. The risk was immense. One wrong move, and he could be shot down by either side. But whether by luck or sheer audacity, he managed to cross the border and land safely at an American base in South Korea. The moment he touched down, No Kum-So realized the magnitude of his escape. He jumped out of the jet and made a bold statement by tearing down the portrait of the North Korean dictator that was inside the cockpit. This act of defiance was more than symbolic. It sent a powerful message. In recognition of his bravery and the value of the MiG-15, No Kum-So was rewarded with a hefty $100,000. No Kum-So's bold defection was more than just a flight for freedom. It was a symbolic rejection of the regime that sought to control every aspect of his life.